Starting narrator. Narrator heading, exiting narrator.
When you have the youth, the masculine youth of the world, thinking for themselves, that's pretty scary to authority.
One of the biggest fatal mistakes any man or human being can make.
To chop my head off and try and delete me is asinine in and of itself. Another thing, I'll give the game away. Here's your piece of paper. You want to get canceled again, Logan?
You're saying a call like that was made?
100%. The dude's a bitch.
Lady of yours that you introduced to us yesterday said, "This is my wife." I don't even know if I'm convinced you want to have 5 wives.
And that's a very astute observation, and you are correct. But I won't believe in it. I don't want to believe in things that make me weak.
Suddenly the most famous man on the internet, and then all of a sudden gone from the internet.
So today's sit-down is a sit-down many of you have been asking about for a while, and we finally pulled it off. There's been no conversations of what we can't talk about. He said nothing's off limits. We're talking everything and anything. However he chooses to answer, obviously it's going to be on him. Today's guest is Andrew Tate. Many will call him possibly the most popular man on social media the last 6 months. Nearly 20 billion views on all social media. The most searched man on social. We were looking at the list. We put up Biden, we put up Trump, we put up Putin, we put up everybody. And he was up there. Some periods he was above everybody else. And recently he got banned in late August. I think the 3rd or 4th week of August he got banned, late August. And at that time, from June to July, his Instagram account was growing at 100,000 followers, new followers on a daily basis, on track to get to 10, 20, 40, 50 million followers on Instagram. Suddenly like this, he gets banned. Everybody's wondering what happened. Some had positive thoughts about it. Some didn't have positive thoughts about it. We'll get into that as well. But Tate, appreciate you for making the time in. It's good to be spending these few hours with you.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
So let's get right into it. So this banning happens, and we've had a lot of different people in the past get banned. I'll read some of the people on why they got banned.
Sure.
And I think the first question we want to get into is what everybody wants to know. No one still knows. Everything is pure speculation. Trump got banned on all social because of the insurrection.
Yep.
Alex Jones promoting and inciting violence, whether it's Sandy Hook, whether it's Pizzagate. Eventually, they just said, we got to kind of cut this off.
Yep.
Milo Yiannopoulos got banned in 2016 from Twitter for inciting harassment of SNL and Ghostbuster star Leslie Jones. Louis Farrakhan was banned for anti-Semitism comments spreading hate.
Yep.
Rob Kardashian was banned in 2017 for a revenge porn picture of his ex-girlfriend, K. Blac Chyna. Kanye West was banned temporarily for repeated posts that threatened both Kim and Pete Davidson. Yep. Rihanna got banned because they called it inciting horniness, believe it or not. That's what it was called. And for posting a topless photo of herself. Then she later on came back on. Rose McGowan got banned in 2017 off Twitter for calling out Ben Affleck for his business relationship with Harvey Weinstein, and that lasted 12 hours. Chelsea Handler in 2014 for posting a nude picture. Many were upset when she did that, but she did post it. Marjorie Taylor Greene got banned in 2022 for repeated tweets in which she shared false and dangerous info about COVID-19.
Oh, false and dangerous.
That's what they called it.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's very interesting.
And then PewDiePie was banned from Twitter for making a joke about ISIS. Okay. So why did Andrew Tate get banned?
They did not tell me. They did not send me an email, no correspondence. I certainly didn't break terms of service. I guess that's why they couldn't send me an email and explain why. Nobody told me, whether it was YouTube that banned me or Meta that banned me. They banned me instantly and forever without any kind of correspondence. They've not told me why. They've not told anyone what I did. The media machine, in synchronization with the ban, we can call that coincidence if you want to believe in such things, came out with some kind of bullshit explanation that I'm misogynistic or some garbage. But the actual social media companies themselves provided no explanation at all, no correspondence at all. They just deleted it.
Now, are you doing anything about it? Are you having your legal team trying to find out why they did that, or you're not taking any action right now?
I do have a lot of things happening behind the scenes. However, and perhaps I'm becoming optimistic in my old age, but I believe that in due course, the social media companies will realize the mistake they made. I think that, and like I said, I don't have intimate knowledge of the workings of social media companies, but assuming they are semi-professional to any regard, and that is a big assumption, but let's assume they're professional. That means that when they ban somebody like me, especially the most Google search person on the planet, they must have teams which are analyzing in real time the response to said actions, right? Mm-hmm. They should have people sitting there on the ground analyzing. Now, they attacked me with their media machine, because first they shut you up so they can lie about you. So they shut me up. Then they did the massive media push to try and attempt to lie about me. But despite that, the majority of comments regarding me are still positive. The majority of people believe and understand that this ban is unfair. And if these companies have any degree of professionalism, they're analyzing this in real time and they're understanding that this makes us look very bad. People didn't believe the lie. People didn't believe what we attempted to smear this man with. Nobody's buying this narrative. And this is going to have a negative effect on us for a very, very long time, because when you're in charge of the world, which they are, as soon as you're no longer seen as just and fair, you're seen as tyrannical. And once you're seen as tyrannical, then there's going to be some kind of mass movement against you. So if I was a social media executive, I would sit and I would analyze the data and I would say, listen, guys, we will have a monopoly. We want to retain our monopoly. Let's be smart here. Being known as tyrannical amongst the public consciousness across the entire planet is going to make it very difficult for us to hold our monopoly for a longer period of time, as opposed to being seen to be fair. Even if we're biased, we must be seen as fair. Sure. As soon as we're seen as tyrannical, that's when the revolution. Look at Ceausescu. As soon as you're a tyrant, that's when everyone hits the streets. Yep. So I think that if they have any kind of serious data monitoring, and if they have any kind of serious business professionalism, they are now talking in dark rooms, understanding that this has played out very badly for them. And if they intend on keeping their monopoly into the future, that they need to change something. Maybe I'm being optimistic.
Who was the first one to take you off?
Meta.
Meta was first. So
Meta.
Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook, Insta, bam.
Okay. And then it was a domino effect.
Yeah, so Meta took me down. So it's quite interesting, actually. I had a YouTube channel for a while. It was never so large. I had 738,000 subscribers. It took me a long time to build it up. I got a strike on YouTube, which prevented me from posting. Got a strike, no big deal. The next day, Meta took me down, deleted my Facebook and my Instagram. The press came out at exactly the same time, in sync, saying that I'm a misogynistic, dangerous person, that I'm harmful, that I am the reason that the world is not a perfect place, world hunger, you name it, all my fault. Attacked me across all of this, and I thought, okay, let me film a message that I can get out on my YouTube, my final message, which I don't know if you guys have seen. I ended up putting on freetopg.com. Let me film my final message explaining how this is unfair and unjust. We filmed it, we produced it, we got it all edited within 12 hours, head to toe ready to go, but we couldn't post it because of the YouTube strike. So we're waiting for the YouTube strike to expire. A few hours before the YouTube strike expires, guess what happened? They banned me from YouTube. Then they banned me from Discord. Then they banned me from Airbnb. They banned me from Stripe. I can't even remember. It was just emails coming in faster than you could believe. Ban.
So the Matrix, the socials.
Oh, no, the Matrix presses a button, my friend. Yeah. And every app on your phone stops working. Uber. You name it. Uber.
Stop.
You name it.
Wait, you can't use Uber?
Well, I can use Uber. You just start a new account, right? But
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Uber. Catch me. But
yeah. Your main account on Uber was taken.
They take everything.
Everything. Coordinated effort all at once.
Coordinated effort all at once. Every single one of them just goes no. Delete, and they come at you with everything.
And Stripe.
Banks.
Payment processing.
And banks. UK-based banks as well. High Street banks. I can name Santander, HSBC, Barclays, etc. all at the same time. Oh, no, sorry, to change. We've decided because blah blah, some bullshit, some letter, close your accounts. So they take all your banking, they take your payment processing, they take all your social media presence. They take your Discord, they take your Skype, they take all your accounts, your ability to communicate with people, and then they lie about you in the press. And they leave you there. They leave you there to suffer. They attempt to harm
you. Can understand the social component. All right, these guys are probably all working in unison.
Yeah.
But when you hear payment processors, banks, apps like Uber, how are you processing that?
No, I mean, That's why he has to do something about it, because, for me, there's plenty of great lawyers. Did you hear about what happened with Alex Brenneson lately? Did you follow
Berenson?
Alex?
Berenson. The writer?
Alex Berenson, I think
I heard he sued Twitter or something. I
he
don't
did
know.
sue Twitter.
Yeah.
Did you follow the story?
I don't know the exact story, no.
So he was on Joe Rogan. If you've not seen it, I highly recommend you watch this. So he is saying things about Twitter. Matter of fact, the tweet that got him in trouble, got him his 5th strike, was the following tweet. We can put this up there because I'm just reading what he said. This is a tweet he put out that he said, "It doesn't stop infection or transmission. Don't think of it as a vaccine. Think of it as, at best, a therapeutic with a limited window of efficacy and terrible side effects profile that must be dosed in advance of illness, and we want to mandate it? Insanity." That's his tweet. So he gets banned.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
In December of last year, which was 6 months after when Biden said anybody who allows debate of vaccine should be banned or shouldn't be allowed, meaning there shouldn't be any of that. So 6 months after that, he gets banned. In April, a judge in California is, believe it or not, a very big freedom of speech place because they allow protesting. A judge that was appointed by Bill Clinton comes in and says, "I'm allowing this to go through," because typically Section 230 that is in place in 1998 was to protect social media sites and many of these online sites that if you offend your ex-wife or if you offend your brother, it has nothing to do with Facebook. So they kind of protected themselves. But Alex was able to go all the way because of this court judge that was appointed by Clinton, not Obama or Trump, but by Clinton. He goes in. Eventually, he says, you get to have 2 people from Twitter to come to court to defend themselves. So he could have gone to Jack Dorsey. Long story short, they finally lifted it. He is on Twitter and he's posting heavily, talking about the fact the reason why he got banned is because the government didn't want him on inciting what he was inciting. So the moral of the story is, when you say something like that, for someone like you seem like you're a methodical guy. You're a chess guy. Your dad's a chess person. 5-time United Armed Force champion, 5 times, 6 times Indiana State. You were playing at 5 years old against 16-year-olds. You don't play chess without being strategic, thinking about your next few moves.
Correct.
So if you don't do anything and bring lawyers in, to the market, I've interviewed a lot of people who are in the mob. To the market, it sounds like they're right.
Absolutely.
But if you do and you defend yourself, you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for others who maybe don't have your kind of resources to say,
correct,
hey, this guy's willing to stand up. He kind of helped change the law for me.
Correct.
Because the one case, it was the Sikhs against Facebook. That's the case that helped them out. India, years ago, didn't like this Facebook group that had Sikhs. It was a Sikh Facebook page. So India told Facebook to take them off. Facebook took them off. Then Sikhs sued Facebook. That became the precedent.
Nice.
So somebody like you can potentially set a new one against Section 230.
Absolutely. I certainly have legal options being explored. And I don't want to say too much on the podcast. The legal options are certainly being explored. We'll see how things progress across the next few weeks. But I have a very strong suspicion I will end up back on the media platforms, or they will offer them back to me. The question now at this point is if I even want them, which is a unique question, because a lot of people still believe that you can only have a significant presence in the world with these social media platforms. That's the source of their power. I believe there's huge pressure behind the dam in regards to the fact that everybody understands that these places are tyrannical and that they control ideas and that they force narratives. And I use my wording as the Matrix. I call them the Matrix. And people say to me, why do you call them the Matrix? And I say, because they project a false version of reality in real time that people subscribe to. If there wasn't an absolute blacklist on all opposing views during COVID-19, that bullshit would never have gone on for as long as it did. It went on for as long as it did, and they managed to purport a false version of reality for so long because you couldn't discuss the opposing side. We just talked about our friend here who got banned for saying something very sensible and logical. So when you get huge media companies that can literally alter in reality in real time by deleting the other side of an argument, they're creating a matrix. That's what I like to call it. So I call them the source of the matrix. So people understand this, and there's huge pressure behind the dam, but the problem is people say, well, what's the alternative? And I think if someone could pave the way and put a crack in the dam by maintaining massive relevancy despite of a ban, and still having a social media platform and presence which is respected on other platforms, I think it's going to do them significant damage. I think the pressure and the crack together is going to create something monumental. And already I've moved to Rumble. I only had 738,000 subscribers on my YouTube after 5 years of work. Post-ban, I moved to Rumble, which is a YouTube competitor. Stock price has gone up 36%, and I'm at 500,000 subscribers in 2 weeks. So I'm about to surpass the size of my YouTube channel within a month. YouTube stock's down, Rumble stock's massively up. So all in all, there's other avenues, but we'll see. I certainly agree with you that what they've done to me is massively unfair. They know it's unfair. I think the reason they didn't send me an email or any confirmation of what I did wrong is because they knew they were gonna end up in court, and they didn't want to be tied down to their reason. They want to stay fluid and try to make up a reason on the day. I've heard from very reliable sources that their terms of service have changed significantly post my ban. They've made up new reasons. Post ban, they've made a bunch of new shit. So it's going to be interesting, but certainly, yeah, there has to be legal ramifications for what they've done. I don't take it personally, but I do take it professionally. And you're right, they were wrong. I have no reason to be banned. My Instagram is just cars. Like, it's just cars and a little bit of flexing. There's no politics. There's not even any points of view. I had no strikes, nothing. It's just a hit piece. So
if there were betting odds, like if we did a poll, why do you think Andrew Tate was banned from all the social media platforms? And it was misogyny, right? You know, COVID stuff, against the government, against system. If you were a betting man, where would you kind of place the odds?
Oh, I already know. Everybody already knows I was banned because I talked against the Matrix. They know
the system in general.
The system in general, yeah. I mean, someone compared me to Socrates, which is a compliment, but he was vilified. He ended up poisoning himself in Athens, and the charge against him was corrupting the youth. You read about his poisoning and his arrest. They said he was corrupting the youth, but he wasn't corrupting them. He was inspiring them to challenge authority. He was inspiring them to think for themselves. When they were told something, instead of blindly complying, he said, look, analyze who these people are who are telling you to do X. And I even had a tweet I put out on my, I've been banned on Twitter forever, so I've been through 20 Twitter bans. I come back as undercover, whatever. But I've been saying I said, if you have a point of view that you are very strong in your adherence to, if you truly believe something, you need to sit and analyze whether it's your own personal experience that makes you believe something, or if someone else or something else has convinced you of this. And if they have, you need to then once again analyze that point of view and analyze who these people are and what they want from you. Do they truly want the best of you? If the news convinces you of something to the point where you're going to argue with your own family members at a dinner table, does the news really care about you more than your family? This is a genuine question. You need to analyze every belief you hold, where it came from, and then analyze what their intentions are. And if you start to do that, you look at something like COVID, for example, it's an easy one, and you look at all the bullshit they were saying, and you sit here and go, wait, these people don't care about me. If I had diabetes or I needed insulin, or if I had cancer, or if I got in a car crash, anything, they'd be hitting me with medical bills I could never possibly afford. They'd let me die. But they are insisting I take this shot for free, on repeat. This doesn't make sense. And when you encourage people to think for themselves, especially the youth, that's what Socrates got accused of. He's corrupting the youth. And to be honest with you, a huge portion of my fan base were 18 to 23, 24-year-old males. When you have the youth, the masculine youth of the world, thinking for themselves, that's pretty scary to authority. Because it's the masculine youth of the world that is, one, the revolutionaries, and two, also, that's the backbone of the slave force. If you need people to go die in a ditch in Afghanistan, you need them. If you need people to work bullshit jobs in a coal mine with no health care, you need them. If you need people to blindly comply to bullshit, you need them more than anybody. More than you need the feminists and the liberals. You need the real men to go out there and comply with the bullshit, to live a shitty existence, to purport and prop up a system.
The warrior class.
The warrior class, right? And if enough of these men stand in one place and say this is enough, that's when a revolution happens. So this is the most dangerous group of the demographic that the Matrix and the people are trying to control, and they have to have a narrative over, and that's why they're trying to weaken them in every regard. And when I'm sitting there saying, don't listen to the bullshit, become physically strong, think for yourself, prioritize your brotherhood above what the fucking Matrix is telling you, do not blindly comply, resist the slave mind, all these things I'm saying, they just sat there one day and said, wait, the most popular person on the planet is saying, don't listen to our bullshit. Delete.
Good idea. Yeah, so I don't think I have an issue with somebody coming after my name, saying whatever they want to say. It's going to happen. That's a part of the game. The bigger you get, the louder you get. That's whether it's in business, theology, church, military, social media, you're going to have that happen, and Hollywood's going to happen to you. The concern is when we can't have debate. There's nothing more powerful than you and I having a debate. You know, vaccine. In our family, we sat down, we had the conversation about vaccine. My dad's a conservative, 80 years old. He says, I'm going to take the vaccine, and I'm going to take the second shot, and I'm going to take a booster, and I'm going to take another booster. He went through all the boosters, right? And he says, but I'm doing it because of my age. I'm like, go for it. Do it. And my nanny, I'm going to do this. I'm taking this. Go for it. We had a conversation, and then we made a decision what people wanted to do. Nothing wrong with that, but to not allow that discourse to take place is a challenge. To be fair, I went on there, and I asked our research team, I said, guys, tell me everything Tate said that's pissed people off. Okay, I want to read some of this stuff.
Sure.
And, you know, some of it's rubbed some people the wrong way, and some of it's offended certain people, but these are some of the things that you've said in the past before. You said, it's been proven that the smartest people in the world are men. Okay?
Right.
I think you had that with Barstool Sports, and then they came up with the Portnoy and the highest IQ, and then later on, it was proven that most of the IQ was more men than it was women. Next, I will not administer CPR until you're, unless you're a hot female.
Yeah.
Right?
So what's actually interesting is, and this is what's really, really important, because it becomes a broader argument than just me and what's happened to me. And I want to make something clear to the social media companies also as a whole. A lot of the things I said were in longer format video on YouTube 3-4 years ago. And the way that social media is being produced and also digested has changed significantly in the last year. It's all TikTok, it's all YouTube Shorts, it's all Instagram stories. TikTok in real time has destroyed the attention span of billions of people. Have you ever watched somebody on TikTok? How long do they give a video before they get bored? How long? Watch someone. Next time you see
2
someone on TikTok.
seconds.
Boring. Boring.
Yeah.
Boring. Like your attention span is gone. You can no longer focus on the real world. You can't focus on anything. ADHD is being developed in real time from these apps, right? So the idea of me producing a 7-8 minute video like I used to, and people consuming all of it and understanding the context is gone. They'll take one few seconds, like me saying I wouldn't administer CPR to a man, for example. And it was actually satire, of course. It's a joke. I talk at length about how
That's the part.
that's the whole point. It's a joke. But they take that one part, they put it on a TikTok, boom, boom, boom. They add some editing, they remove the tonality, they make it interesting and funny, and it goes viral. That's fine. But the point we now live in a world where anything you ever say can be taken out of context. Anything you ever say can be weaponized against you. And I'm not complaining. I don't believe in complaining. I believe in responsibility. And I'm not saying I didn't say them. I'm not saying I didn't mean it. I'm saying that most of the people who are upset by things I've said have heard a few clips out of context and never actually digested any of my content seriously. You know, because that was part of a very long video. The idea that I would let my brother die next to me, my own brother or my friend die next to me.
Because he's not a hot chick.
Because he's not a hot chick. It's asinine. It's inane, right? But it's stupid to even believe it. But if you watch the whole video at length, that makes sense. But if you only see that, then it doesn't make sense.
You know what's crazy though? Because I'm sure you saw what Rogan said about you and the position they took when we're talking about you. And they're like, look, we need this guy.
Yeah.
Because he's got to keep talking about the stuff. You know, and he's having a conversation with Brandon Schaap. I think it's Eddie. It's all these guys that are on there.
Friend
But then,
Brian Callen.
yeah, and then they're like, yeah, this guy, you know, we got to protect what he has to say. But then Jake Paul said, I don't roll with Tate. I'd love to knock his ass out. He said something like that. But then he said, but what I do support is, free speech. But then his brother said something else. His brother said, you know, the shit that Andrew Tate says will have a ripple effect much more dangerous than you can imagine because his narrative is truly hateful. His rhetoric has extreme negative energy in it, and it will affect impressionable young people that won't show for years from now, and it's dangerous. Now, this is what he says,
This
right?
is Logan Paul, you're saying?
But I want to say this before you comment on it. And then Junior supported you, Tucker supported you. I think the guys that like debate and comedians, people who appreciate humor, can understand that some of the stuff you're saying is funny as hell. You could be a comedian if you wanted to, but a person has to really pay attention to the comedy. But you know, some can run with it, some cannot run with it. When you hear the people that support and don't support you, how do you process that?
So first things first, I want to get very, very clear that Logan Paul is absolutely and utterly a tool of the Matrix. He's a bought and sold individual with no soul. He doesn't stand up for anything, and he doesn't mean anything he says. He gets pieces of paper from Susan or whoever else telling him what he's allowed to say on his channel to retain
You
it.
believe that?
100%. Not only do I believe it, he's proved to himself. He will flip-flop on any issue. He can be bought and sold. The dude's a bitch. Logan Paul is a bitch, and I will say that here publicly. Anyone wants to, I'll fight him for free. The guy's an idiot.
No money needed to
No money
fight Logan
needed.
Paul.
Logan Paul doesn't believe in any of the things he says. Logan Paul is a man. If you ever were unfortunate enough to consume his content, I get sent clips of it all the time by people mocking him. As soon as something comes out, whether it's Harry Styles wearing a dress, whether it's Lil Nas twerking on the devil, whether it's this, he just sits there and goes, yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is great. He is a talking piece. He is the mouthpiece for the agenda. The people have come along, people who are trying to force a narrative, and they said, look, we need to have some degree of control over the exact demographic that Tate has control over. We're going to use Logan Paul and attempt to use him. And he sits there and just purports the bullshit points of view that the whole Hollywood establishment want him to purport. He doesn't believe in the things he said. He's told what to say. And because he was canceled before and it emotionally destroyed him, he sat on camera crying his eyes out like a little girl instead of being a man about it. He is so fearful of the mob and so scared of being canceled again that he's going to sit there and say anything he's told. He doesn't believe that shit. Before I was canceled, him and his boyfriend Mike did endless videos supporting me, laughing about me, saying how funny I was, tagging me on Instagram, inviting me places, etc. The second I'm canceled, they flip reverse it and shit themselves because they don't want to get canceled too. They are children. That's all they are. So Logan Paul's a bitch. That's the first thing about Logan Paul. And what's actually been interesting about this whole cancellation thing is it hasn't negatively affected me in any serious way because I've been saying on podcasts for years, I know a cancellation is coming. I knew it was coming. I knew that as I got more popular and more powerful to a degree that it was going to come. But what it has done is it has awoken the world, to anyone who's perspicacious enough to pay attention, to learn which individuals out here in the social media space actually have character and believe what they say, and which are completely bought and sold and are tools to the Matrix. The people who have decided to stand up for me and say, no, this is bullshit, are people who have, to some degree, credibility. You know, this is people who say what they truly believe. But the people who were totally a fan and then post-cancellation shit themselves in 180 and to get a new piece of paper to talk from, that should tell out the public out there exactly who is controlled and whether these people have a genuine narrative that they're trying to report on the world. And it's interesting. Logan's one of them, and there's a few others. But I'm glad it happened just for that alone. Because it's actually very clear. If you go to Logan Paul's last podcast where he's discussing me, all of his fans, and we'll talk about fans and viewers in a minute because I think they're very different things. All of his fans, which he has none of, all of his viewers are sitting there insulting him, saying, bro, you're a fucking bitch. Like everyone, all of his own watchers are calling him names because it's so transparent and so obvious what he's doing.
Fans versus viewers.
Fans versus viewers, very different things. So he doesn't have any fans, he has viewers. And Susan and the Matrix and the people in charge of social media companies are like, okay, we've set our media machine. Let me ask you guys questions as professionals. Let's assume, as professionals, let's assume what I'm saying is correct. Let's assume that the social media companies, when they banned me, set their media machines, all release thousands of news articles at the same time, trying to convince the world I'm an evil man. If they had that degree of power and influence, which I think we can all probably agree they do, don't you think they'd take their number one talking piece to the demographic, which is my fan, and give him a piece of paper and tell him what to say? Does that all make sense? Does that make sense to say, well, we told all the news to say Tate's bad, and all of his fans are 18 to 25-year-old men. Who do we have on YouTube who obeys us like a little cuck, who speaks to 18 to 25-year-old men? Logan Paul. Okay, Logan, here's your piece of paper. Do you want to get canceled again, Logan? No, you don't want to get canceled, do you? No, Mom.
You're saying a call like that was made?
100%. The dude's a bitch. He 180'd from a super fan to talking about my rhetoric being dangerous in 24 hours.
There's a difference between you saying who you think he is versus you making the speculation that he got called by somebody to say, here's a narrative we want you to take, or else we'll silence you.
Well, Logan is not capable of independent thought. So if someone didn't give him the narrative, he didn't think it up himself. The dude's an empty vessel. He says what he is told to say. Somebody, somewhere, told Logan what to say and what stance to take. We can argue whether it was a social media company, whether it was his manager who was fearful, whether whatever. But somebody sat with Logan and said, look, Tate's getting a lot of smoke. You were cool with him. Your boyfriend Mike was cool with him. He's getting a lot of smoke right now. You're going to bitch out. He sat there and said, yes, sir. Yes, I will. Because he has no character or no integrity. If it was all the other way around, just imagine he was getting canceled. And I truly believed it was unfair. I'd sit there on my own platform and say, this is bullshit, because I'm not bought, sold, and owned. He's an owned individual. So he's always going to say what he is told to say. He's always going to sit on podcasts, speaking to the youth, promoting Harry Styles wearing a dress, saying that it's great that Lil Nas twerks on the devil in real time for our children to digest, and then say, I'm dangerous to the youth. That's what he's been told to say. Logan Paul has absolutely no capability for independent thought. He has no character as a man. That's who Logan Paul is.
Now, you said he got canceled in the past. I don't think he ever got canceled. I think his channel was demonetized for 90 days, but they kept all this stuff up. He was never taken fully down, like you were fully taken down. They just kind of demonetized.
This is for the Japanese.
This is when he did the Japanese video where apparently he went to a place where
you commit suicide in Japan. Right.
Yeah, I'm not completely familiar with the absolute mechanics of his cancellation. All I do know is that he cried on television repeatedly. So the dude was obviously emotionally affected by it and is fearful of it. And when someone is scared of something, that's the tool you use to manipulate them.
Well,
he is scared of being canceled.
Because when this happened to you, you're 35 years old, right? You're a grown man. I know you like to joke. I'm an old man. I mean, you're in literally your prime, bro.
Correct.
When that happened to him, he was 23 years old.
Correct.
Right? This was 5 years ago. I think he's 27 now, 22, whatever. You've had a lot more life experiences and been in fights, literally, proverbially, all that, versus someone who's 23. I can see where you're coming from, being like he's been groomed by this virtual government, these digital media companies.
He needs them.
He needs them. He's become a mouthpiece of them, is
He's
what
a
you're
mouthpiece
saying.
of them. He needs them. And you're right. He was younger at the time. I would like to think that Patrick has been through a much harder situation in his life at younger than 23 than cancellation and wasn't crying his eyes out like a little girl. So the dude's obviously emotionally soft. He needs them. And the reason he needs them is because Logan Paul doesn't have fans, he has viewers. And that's what's actually been highlighted to me significantly since my banning, that there's a massive difference between those two things. Logan Paul is a person who needs the platforms and needs the algorithms, and people will watch him, but they will sit there and most of them will call him names, but he will have views. That is different than having fans. When you have fans, with me, for example, when I got canceled, they say, where's Tate? Where is he? I'll go anywhere he is. I'll download any app. I'll uninstall the other apps. I'll take his content and post it on the platforms they don't want him on. Where is Tate? That's a fan. And that's different. When you only have viewers, you need the algo. I don't need the algo. As long as people know where I am, they're going to come. And it's a completely different scenario.
Whose playbook you think he's following? If you were to say that, because isn't that the Hollywood playbook? Like you follow that playbook, and as long as you, because that's what you're speculating. He's following the playbook up. You follow our narrative, we're going to give you the world.
I think that since the dawn of human time, anybody who had power understood that it was a particular demographic which is going to become dangerous to their power mechanism. It's not a new idea. The idea that the Romans would conquer a Greek city and kill all the boys and all the military-age males, it's always been the same, right? Who's going to cause us trouble if we want to hold this city? These guys. We'll get rid of them. So nowadays, I think what they're trying to do is neuter this class. Trying to neuter this class by affecting them mentally and affecting their mindset, affecting their ability to think critically. And if you neuter this class, you're far less likely to have a revolution when you do something crazy. Like, I don't know, like, for example, imagine for 2.5 years you wanted to walk everyone in their houses because of the common cold. Let's imagine you were going to do something tyrannical. You would want to ensure that this class of individuals were so busy concerned with either being depressed or jerking off or being physically weak or distracted, so they didn't all stand up and go, wait, this common cold can't hurt me. And I just started my business and I ain't going bankrupt with this shit. They don't want that, so they're trying to neuter a certain class of people. I don't really want to talk too much in depth about who I think they are, because I'm trying to stay alive and I would never kill myself. But it's certainly happening. I think anybody with a brain can see the narrative is out there. The narrative is being supported and accelerated by all mainstream media channels. And people who are allowed to have a platform, such as Logan Paul, have sold their soul, cut their dicks off, and they sat there and say, yes, I will say what you tell me to say. Please don't cancel me. I am a fearful individual. Dude is a punk. If he ever meets me in the cage, I will destroy him in real time for free. He knows it.
What about the brother?
Well, Jake at least, well, this is the interesting thing about those two, right? Because me and my brother have become the most famous brothers on the planet. So there's also a degree of jealousy involved.
I was just going to ask that. You get the Tate bros and the Paul brothers, and it's like this balance of power that's being shifted, and this
Completely.
sort of this dance that's happening.
It's interesting, right? Because you had the Disney brothers, the Disney brothers, who gained a bunch of power and notoriety, and they were the most famous brothers on the planet, and they've now been usurped by my brother and I, who come from a very unfortunate background and grew up in the street, did everything ourselves. And obviously, the youth of the world today have an affinity and feel a synergy with us that they don't feel with the Disney brothers, because the Disney brothers had a very easy, privileged life. You know, they grew up relatively easily and privileged. You get Disney contract, then you become a YouTuber. You've never really known struggle. I mean, you've had it pretty good. So there's a degree of jealousy involved. Jake at least stood up for free speech. Jake has said some negative comments about me. I've said a few negative things about him, but I have nothing personal against Jake. And also I find it interesting that Jake and Logan are not even that close. They may pretend to be, obviously they're brothers, but Jake and KSI have beef. They're literally trying to hurt each other. Logan is KSI's best friend. When you ask Logan who would he choose between KSI and brother in a boxing match, he's like, oh, I don't know, man. He can't even choose his own flesh and blood over some fucking dude he met. Their whole relationship is weird. If you insult my brother or you have any kind of problem with my brother, you have a problem with me. That's on site permanent. Like me and my brother are like this, but they're not like that. They have this weird relationship and they've slept with each other's girlfriends and a bunch of weird shit. So I don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah, KSI did say, thank God Angela Tate got that. Go ahead, you were saying something?
I mean, we're talking about the Tate brothers.
Right.
And the Paul brothers, arguably the two most famous set of brothers in the world.
Right.
But you've got two sons, right?
Yeah. Well, listen,
similar age difference between these guys.
For me, here's what I like.
Yeah.
I'm a pro competition guy.
Yeah.
Right.
The fact that he went on Rumble and he got 500,000 subs in 2 weeks, you know who wins? You know who wins?
The market.
The world wins.
Yeah.
The fact that he went on Rumble, got 500,000 subs. Good job for Chris for making that move, by the way.
We know
and we've had good conversations at the house with him. And he's making a move right now on our buddy, the guy we like, Russell Brand and a few other guys.
Amazing.
But stud, he's doing the right thing.
Rumble.
Yeah, he's doing the right thing. Yeah,
Amazing.
no question about it.
Amazing.
But go back to this. I want both to be competing. I got two boys. I want the Tates going against Pauls to go against this. I run an insurance company. We have a lot of siblings that compete against each other. It's great for the market. But where I was going, I said, who is Logan Paul's playbook he's following, right? He's 27. The video you talked about, 23, when it was in December in 2017, I want to say, when he was in Japan. The video with him and his girl when, you know, the what do you call it? The belt. That when you got kicked off of Big Brother or whatever it was in 2016, but that video is from 2012. 10 years ago, he's 25. So 23, 25, you know, you're coming from that kind of an environment. You can kind of hold the two things at the same level of accountability. One is suicide. The other one is, you know, a extreme method of sexual, you know,
consensual
sex that, you know, it is what it is. But this is where I was going with it. Years ago, and I'm just trying to see, because you know the whole thing, what would Jesus do? Everybody has a WW something do, right?
Yeah.
So Logan, when he did the Japan thing, the story came out, he was talking about it openly, that Rock's people said, hey man, you got to distance yourself from him. And apparently what he told is, Rock's people contacted to say, hey, delete all the pictures that we have together, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe he's going into wrestling. He's following Rock's footsteps. Rock is definitely somebody that if he ever wanted to run for office, that's a guy that could do it if he wanted it. I think Logan's another guy, whether you like him or not. I think he's got the pedigree to one day run. It doesn't mean you're going to support his policies, but he is a guy that's going in the direction of one day running. 20, 30 years, he could do it. So maybe he's sitting there saying, what would The Rock do? He distanced himself from me. Well, maybe I got to stop defending this guy, and I got to distance myself from him. I wasn't going on the angle of, you know, Hillary Clinton, Calder, all these guys. No, I was going more, what playbook is he following?
I understand exactly what you're saying, but I would disagree, and the reason I would disagree is because that requires a degree of thought and intellect that Logan Paul does not possess.
He's an idiot?
No, I know he's an idiot. He's not thinking that far ahead. He's literally, someone has told him, say this, and he says it. It doesn't, and it's not just me. There's been loads of examples, and I put it on my podcast on Rumble, where we went through all the times where something came up, some controversial subject that people were discussing, is this good for the public consciousness? And the answer was always basically no. Is this necessary for children to be consumed? The answer was always basically no. But it was purported by the Hollywood elites, and Logan was always the #1 person sticking up for it. He is bought and sold by somebody, whether his management team, whoever they are, they think it's good for him to act this particular way. He does not think for himself. He says what he's going to see.
But isn't that Hollywood in general?
Completely.
Right?
The Matrix.
Exactly.
The Matrix. So we agree. The Matrix. The agents of the Matrix. Some minds are not ready to be freed. And those who are not ready to be freed are going to sit there and they're going to defend the system. What does Morpheus say himself? He's sitting there defending the system. Logan Paul is going to sit and pretend that the world is going to be a better place if you remove all opposing ideas. And he's going to sit there and say that because he's a moron. anyone with a brain understands that if you care about your children and your children's children, they need to live in a world full of healthy competition, exactly as you said. As soon as you remove all opposing viewpoints or all competition, you end in tyranny. And anyone with a brain will sit and say, if he had any kind of character, he'd say, I completely do not agree with what Tate said. However, deplatforming is wrong because of X. He doesn't have to talk about me or what I've said. He can sit there and say, no, deplatforming is wrong because we need to have opposing viewpoints, opposing ideals. Idea A, idea B, the truth is perhaps in the middle. He has no intellect.
You
no
can disagree with somebody.
He can't do that. He's not smart enough.
Yeah.
Tate's bad today. Okay, tell me when he's good again. He's a bought and sold individual. When my hero arc completes, because we're at a transition stage, when my hero arc completes, and much like Batman, people understand that we thought he was the bad guy, but we realized we needed him. And when I come back to save Gotham and the hero arc completes, you'll see him and his little boyfriend back on Instagram saying, Tate's funny, and swap again, because it's allowed. That's all he is. He's
That's your prediction for him.
Not a prediction, it's absolute matter of fact. Especially, it also couples in with the fact that he's extremely jealous of my brother and I's success, because my brother and I's success is not based on the same successes that he enjoyed. His success is based on being a clown. That's why he has viewers. He puts on a Pokemon suit, and he jumps around like a clown. He doesn't sit there and give ideas or say things that make people think to the point where they genuinely resonate with your mindset. He's not intelligent enough for that. He's a performing clown as opposed to a philosopher. So they're different, opposite things, and he knows that, and it upsets him. He can't sit in front of a camera by himself and say words that are going to inspire the crowds of any city in the world to shout your name. If I were to walk through Madrid right now, there would be young people shouting my name, Top G, Top G. That's because of what I say. He puts on a Pokemon suit and does a dance. He's an entertainer. He's not a thinker. They're different things.
We just had that conversation yesterday.
They're different things.
Right. And this is sort of to your credit. We were having this conversation because we knew we'd have this sort of dialogue. And he said, Pat was asking me, Adam, what do you think? I said, you got to understand something about my perspective on Tate is 95% of what I've seen about Tate is camera to the face, him talking and spitting game.
Right.
When you're talking about the Paul brothers, it's fighting, dancing, all sorts of whatever.
Right.
I've never seen you in the ring.
No.
I've seen your accolades, highlights, but I've never seen that.
Yeah.
So people know your rhetoric. They know what you're saying, and whether they agree or disagree, you're known for what's coming out of your mouth versus they're known for antics.
And that's the difference between a fan and a viewer.
That's what goes back to
It goes back to the initial point. He has viewers because he's a clown. Clowns can have viewers, that's fine. And you need an algorithm and you need a platform for that. But if you have genuine fans, like I do, they ban me. People are like, to this day, where is Tate? And they will go anywhere I am. Anywhere I am, they will come because they don't believe they can find my rhetoric or my ideas somewhere else. If you ban Logan Paul, they can find another moron to jump around in front of a camera for you. They can promote someone else inside of their algo and steal his entire audience inside of a week. He can disappear and they can replace it. He knows that. That's why he says what he's supposed to say. If I stop being the performing clown, the new performing clown comes, the algo favors him, they put him up there, and he does a stupid dance, and he gets all my viewers. I'm a completely different kettle of fish, different story.
That was a great perspective of entertainer versus thinker, right? I mean, when you talk about, let's just say there's a dialogue about Joe Rogan, what are you talking about? So the other day Joe had this guest on, and you know this person, and Joe said this, you're having a dialogue with another person. But if you talk about, you know, the other day, man, Logan did this one video, it's hilarious. So that's where he's going is one is creating dialogue, the other one is creating entertainment. I can see that. And by the way, you know, one thing, the day he got banned, we wrote up a story and we posted it on Twitter. And I said, so this guy's a threat to society, the way they're presenting, right? Tate is a threat to society.
Question mark.
And I'm gonna read all the things that you said, because I want the audience to hear it. Some of it is uncomfortable probably for you to hear.
Absolutely.
But I'm gonna read it because I want the audience that maybe hasn't heard all of it see it. But to me, when you say threat to society as a father of four, when I watch Little Nas X making out with the devil on a performance, and you're saying that's creative, then you really do want to hurt the family nucleus if you're okay with that.
Correct.
If a Cardi B gets up there and says, who cares about your body count,
right.
You know, go make your money if you got to make your money. And other girls are
Doesn't
like,
matter if you're a stripper, if
cares
you're a
about
sex
my body
worker, it's
count?
all
I'm
good.
gonna
Go get your bag, girl.
You know, or O.J. Simpson, who did what he did, and he's on Twitter giving fantasy football, or Khamenei or Putin or all these guys who are out there giving their commentary.
Right.
You're worried about this guy because he's a womanizer, because he's got now. complete different conversation to have. But I want to read this. I want to read this, and if you allow me to just go through some of them, let me just say them. It's only a few of them, and then we'll wrap up and go to you.
No problem.
So, how are women allowed to drive? Okay, fine. I asked the question the other day. We were having this debate. I think we were in Cabo. I said, "Who's a better driver, men or women?" And said, "Well, women get into fewer accidents, but the data doesn't tell the truth. Who drives more miles in their lifetime?" And then we eventually, after 2 hours of debate, you see where you're going with that. I like Eastern Europe as a whole because corruption is far more accessible. Okay, I can see why that's going to cause a red flag. Right. You can't be responsible for something that doesn't listen to you. You can't be responsible for a dog if it doesn't obey you, a child or a woman. Okay, that's going to piss off women. Men who constantly give into mental health problems can't compete with other men who don't. I'm depressed. I can't go to the gym. You said that's why you got to go to the gym so you're not depressed. Right. Read the Bible. Every single man had multiple wives. Not a single woman had multiple husbands. It's against the will of God. It's disgusting. Okay. Sexual harassment is a disgusting and inexcusable. However, man looking at you or whistling at you or asking your name isn't harassment. Women have been exchanging sex for opportunity for a long time. Some did this, weren't abused. If you put yourself in a position to be raped, you must bear some responsibility. That's going to piss a lot of people off when you say that.
Completely, I understand, and I would actually, if we have time, I would like to explain all of these.
When I'm done, you can rebuttal on every one.
Because I mean every single one of them. If you want to reach me, I'm on Minix. Minix is a new app. It's fantastic. It allows me to interact directly with people. I get a lot of messages on email, a lot of DMs and those kind of things. But the people who are serious, who want to have serious conversations and grow from them, whether it's a business opportunity or personal experience, etc., I'm on Minix, and I can't wait to interact with the serious individuals of the world. So I would like to.
Fantastic. Why would you be with a woman who's not a virgin anyway? She's a used good secondhand. Right. I mean, that's 99.9%. Read the Bible. Every single man had multiple wives. Not a single woman had multiple husbands. Yep. It's against the will of God. It's disgusting. Okay. It's easier to get off on rape charges in Romania. Okay.
That was taken out completely out.
Of course it was. You went a little bit deeper, but again, you can give your position. Yep. Anyways, there's a bunch of other things that I can go on, that I can go through. So I read those comments, and here's what I'll say when I read those comments. I have 2 sons, I have 2 daughters. When I post stuff about you, and they'll say, "How dare you, who's a father married with 4 kids, would you want a girl, your daughter, to go through this?" And I said, first of all, I get judged on how I raised my kids for 18 years. Yep. Your brother now has a daughter, so you got a niece. So your emotional attachment of your fear, paranoia for having, if somebody touches that girl, I know your wiring is, you guys are going to be in a complete different place.
Absolutely.
And God's got a funny way of giving daughters to men that, you know what I'm saying? So,
it's true.
Or true. Nieces.
It's true.
But when you hear these things and people say, "Well, dude, that's just not cool. You can't say that. We're about this. We're about that. We're about this." What do you say to the people who hear this stuff and they say, "Dude, this guy's out of his mind"?
I will tell them. I will say that they are a product of the modern world where sensationalism gets clicks, where nobody has an attention span, and where they've taken long format content, completely removed all context, and they're now watching something they don't completely understand, along with groupthink, along with group psychosis, along with the idea that it's cool to hate Andrew Tate. They are now saying that I'm the worst man in the world. I can explain each and every one of these sentences, and with explanation, people will understand that I'm not some evil psycho. There's endless videos on TikTok of people going up to women on the street going, "What do you think of Andrew Tate?" And half of them actually say, "We love Andrew Tate. I'd love to date a man like Andrew Tate. He's the kind of guy I like." The girls will say, "I hate him, I hate him." They say, "Why?" He says, "He talks bad about women." And then they say, "What does he say bad?" Every single one of them goes, can't remember. They were told to believe it. They're told to wear the mask. They don't even know. They're NPCs. You know what's unfortunate about the world?
What's NPCs?
NPCs, like a video game. You ever played a video game, a non-playable character? Where you're like running around in an RPG and there's some character there who just repeats the same line over and over again? They're NPCs. You know what's unfortunate about the way the world is? Maths and statistics insist there's no way this can be broken. Unfortunately, half of the population are more stupid than average. That's the truth. There are a bunch of dumb people out there who just literally repeat what they're told. Tate's dangerous for women. Tate's dangerous for women. Why? I don't know why.
Well, why do I need to go watch all the videos of Tate? I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't even fucking know. Yeah. If you don't mind, I would like to go through each of these one by one. If you could remind me of the first one, I'll explain it.
So you have the CPR you already addressed. Yep. Drive. So corruption in Romania.
So let's do one by one. What's the first one?
Corruption. Go to corruption or driving.
Corruption. So let's talk about. I said corruption is far more accessible in Eastern Europe. The reason I said that is because, firstly, I live in Romania, which is a beautiful country full of beautiful people. I was living there, and people often say to me, why do you live in a corrupt country? And my argument was, every country's corrupt. If you think America is not corrupt, you are living in a bubble. The world is corrupt. England's corrupt. They're all corrupt. The EU is corrupt. Russia's corrupt. Every country's corrupt. I would rather live in a corrupt country, considering that they're all corrupt, with corruption that's more accessible to myself, than in a country where they're going to pretend there's law and order unless you reach a certain level, and then you can access the corruption. I'll give you a very simple example. If you are, let's say, the husband of a senator, for example, and you DUI, let's just make this up, hypothetically.
This would never happen.
This would never happen.
Course,
because,
yeah, for sure.
you know, like,
this kind of stuff doesn't
America,
happen.
the greatest country in the world, there's no way that
Husbands of senators don't drink. They
don't just DUI.
Yeah.
Well, let's imagine you did, right? In America, you get off with it scot-free. But if you're a single mother or you're a single parent and you're out there working a minimum wage job and you're trying your very, very hardest and you have kids to raise, you get a DUI, you're fucked. Now, I think it's kind of unfair that the corruption limit in a rich country, in this hypothetical super rich country, means that people at the absolute elite can do whatever they want and nobody else has access. I'll give you another example. Let's imagine you're in Serbia. Same scenario. You're a senator's husband and you get caught with DUI. Of course, nothing's gonna happen. But you're a normal person, you get caught with a DUI. Bro, I've had a hard day at work. I know I'm over the limit. I'm sorry. Here's 50 bucks. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna drive straight home. All right, cool. Go home. Bam. Accessible corruption. To me, that's a more of an appealing environment to live under than under a society where they're gonna take a normal person, wreck them under the law, throw their ass in jail and fucking destroy them, and sit there and cry about law and order, law and order, law and order, when it's all bullshit anyway. There's no law and order. The threshold for corruption's too high. So for me as a person, you said I'm a chess player. If I'm a chess player and I analyze the chessboard, I have geographical freedom, I have financial freedom, I'm gonna live in a society. Why don't I live in a society where I have the most possible moves to make on a chessboard? Where would I go? I'd go somewhere where my money can benefit me. I don't have billions. I'm not a senator's son, but I have enough to live in some other countries and be protected in some regards. That's just an intelligent chess move. I explained this at length in a video. All that context all removed, I was talking about speeding. They take the misogyny thing, they take something about rape, which is imaginary because I have no criminal charges against females, against anything in my life ever. They put it together, they take in the corruption from Romania, they throw that in, they whip it up, and they throw it out to the world. And it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. What's the next one? I said women can't drive.
So let's stay on that one real quick.
Sure.
I mean, I can understand how that's gonna piss off certain people when you're explaining corruption and law and order, because where does jealousy and envy come from? If you think about it, jealousy and envy comes from what? Sometimes it comes from people that no matter what they do, they can never be Tate.
Yeah.
They can never, ever. Like we were talking to Graham Stephan and he says, what do you think about Tate? What do you think about everybody that's gonna try to do his affiliate marketing? I said, go ahead and do it. Yeah. I said, he's not duplicatable.
Yeah.
So non-duplicatable people like you are annoying to people that are, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Correct.
They can't sit there and say, no matter how many motivational books they read, no matter how many videos of you they watch, they cannot talk like you and tell the story. Yeah. That produces envy and jealousy. Right. And you can see how someone like this can be taken out of context saying he must be a criminal for wanting to go to a place that doesn't have law and order.
Absolutely, and I understand why they would say that. Now what's actually interesting is Bucharest, the capital of Romania, where I live, is statistically 25 times safer than a city like London. It's not even a dangerous place. It's the most Christian country on earth. 99.3% Christian in the last census. There's churches everywhere. It's highly religious. It's a very nice place. It's just a different economic bracket. It's nothing to do about Romania specifically. If you go to any second world country in the world with a different economic bracket, the corruption is going to be more accessible, the price is lower. Humans are corrupt. Every single institution on the face of the planet that is run by humans, which is currently all of them, at some degree is corrupt. All of them. Whether it's doctors, financial, judicial, law and order, the monetary system, it's all completely and utterly corrupt. And to sit here and believe that any of them are just and fair, I think we've just learned in the last few years that we can see that even simple things like keeping people alive, even medicine, is completely corrupt from head to toe. All of it is. So you have to understand that, and then you have to look at the chessboard and go, okay, if it's all completely and utterly corrupt, and I understand that there are certain people who get to play the game on cheat mode. Do I want to be able to play the game on cheat mode if I'm going to try and be the best version of myself? Well, yes, I could possibly do that in Nigeria. I could play on cheat mode. I could possibly play on cheat mode in Croatia. I could possibly play on cheat mode here. Here, I have to stick to the rules. If I have to obey the rules of chess against a person who can move their pieces however they want, I'm going to be perpetually crushed for eternity. So it makes that's just smart business sense to me to sit there and go, you know what? Fuck it. Let's change the board. Let's move it out. Let's reset up the pieces and let's play this way. And this is nothing specific with the country I live. I have absolute respect for the country I live. This is just human nature. It's the nature of systems and how they work and the nature of the first world, second world, third world. This is just how the world works. So I say these things and people want to sit here and try and they mix it up. They take that and they try and mix it up with some girl shit and try and pretend I'm not talking about basic things like speeding fines. That's really what I'm talking about. And we can have a long, detailed argument about how corrupt America is. But I like to think most people are brave understand the kind of shit that's going down in America. So America's absolutely corrupt as well. It's just a corrupt world. That's
When's
humans.
the last time you lived in the States?
I left when I was a child.
So you haven't lived in the States in decades.
Never.
Wow. But you go back quite frequently.
That might come to an end.
That might come to an end.
Maybe Miami.
Miami,
But you
yeah.
used an analogy to kind of set you up for this. You used an analogy with Pomp whenever you did that interview. You said, listen, if you two basketball teams, you play a pickup game for $10,000, no referees, no judges, no nothing, just go for it, guys. Do you think there'd be any cheating going on? Fuck yeah.
Yep.
Of course.
Yep.
So now, what was the analogy or metaphor that you made for government and systems
So I said,
to that?
So I say, if you accept that in a basic pickup game of basketball for $10,000 without referees and judges, humans are going to naturally avert to cheat and make sure they win. Do you think the people who are in charge of the world, for the power and control of the entire populace and all of its resources, are not going to consider cheating to win? You think it's not going to cross their mind to just go, you know what, let's just change this little
Hey,
bit.
I was thinking.
You're going to sit there and believe, no, it's fair. Nothing is fair. Nothing has ever been fair. If you've lived a life of genuine hardship, the first thing you will learn is that nothing is ever fair. I've never seen a fair fight on the street. I've never seen a fair relationship. I've never seen a fucking person lose his girlfriend or lose their husband fairly. I've never seen a fair incident on the fucking road when someone gets crushed by a truck. The world is a very unfair place. And humans come along and we purport this idea, don't worry, if we're in charge, we'll make it fair. Bullshit. Bullshit. Nothing is ever fair. And the human inclination is to win, as it should be. And the more powerful you are and the higher the stakes, the higher your inclination to win, as it should be. This is human nature. You wouldn't be able to put yourself in a position of power if you thought any other way. So if you're going to sit there and accept the basis that we're going to cheat in a basic basketball game, that people cheat in football games, people cheat in poker, and people cheat in all this bullshit, and then say no, but they're not going to cheat to control the world, then you're asinine. It's all a fucking lie. It's all a cheat. All of it.
There's a part of it that somebody, I don't think, I mean, tell me who actually believes the government, everything they do is right and there isn't corruption in government. What percentage of the populace in any country believes that?
Well,
It's got to be a very small percentage of
On
it.
both sides, I think most people. I think whether side of the political aisle you're on, you understand, you recognize that
But
corruption
you
exists.
have selective hearing where you will typically only see the good on the side you support, and you will typically only see the bad on the side you don't support. But I don't know anybody who doesn't believe there is a level of corruption going on in the government.
Well, then you say that, but anyone who ever advocates for more government or more law, whether they believe there's corruption or otherwise, are acting adverse to the truth, right? If you believe an institution is corrupt, and then you say, I want them to have more power, well, then what? So you have to look at the people who are always advocating for more law. Those people who are advocating for more law or stricter controls, to a degree, are on the side of a corrupt institution. And it's actually very difficult because we need laws. Nobody wants to live in a failed state without law. Of course, humans need laws completely. But dying empires, this was said by somebody more intelligent than me, but I can't remember their name. Dying empires adopt laws like a sick man adopts medicine. And you'll see why some of these countries in the world, especially the first world countries, as things get harder and harder and harder, the government only has one answer to all problems: law. Energy crisis is out of control.
You
More
do need law and order, though.
You need law and order.
You
Of
need
course
law
you
and
do.
order.
Absolutely you do. But I'm saying that you get to a point where you end up, you wonder how you end up in a tyrannical society. You wonder how you end up in a society where it's so hard for the average person to survive against the law itself. Because when something bad happens inside of a first world nation, the first answer is just to create more law. There's an energy crisis, make more law. There's too much crime, make more law. Inflation, make more law. More law, more law, more law. Print more laws, print more laws, print more laws. You end up with a book of law like this, and it can be thrown at anybody at any time. And this is what's actually interesting about some societies in the world. I live in a country in Romania, which is one of the poorest countries in Europe. It's a homogenous society, but it's very poor. The police drive Dacias that can't go more than 65 miles an hour. Underfunded police force. There's no crime. There's not this big, huge book of law. It's just don't kill anybody, don't be an idiot. And just live your life. Pretty normal. And it's like that in many places in the world. But in other societies and other empires, they're like, no, we need a law for everything. A law about how you use your telephone, a law about how you listen to the radio, a law about how you do bank transfer, a law about this, a law about law. And to a degree, it ends up sooner on a long enough time frame. If you're going to make new laws every single day into eternity, where are you going to end up?
Is that just because Romania just trusts Judeo-Christian values and that's just sort of how they abide?
I'd like to think it's that innocent, but I think a lot of it is also down to enforcement. I don't think they have the mechanisms to enforce laws, so they don't pass them. Whereas in other nations, they have the mechanism to enforce the laws, so they pass them. So, but my point is, if I lived in a nation where they're printing 5,000 new laws a week, I know that's going to end up in tyranny. Regardless, sooner or later, if you're going to make new laws every fucking day, sooner or later it's going to be impossible for me to go outside my house. But that's it. And you end up in a society where that actually literally came true in certain states in America. You couldn't leave your fucking house. That's what happens. And it's a sad state of the world, and I'm not a pessimist in any regard. I'm just trying to analyze the chessboard and be as perspicacious as possible and set myself up in a position where I feel like I can live a life true to myself, true to God, and be free and enjoy the freedom of my family and just do what I want to do without hurting anybody. That's all I'm trying to do.
Well, let me ask you, you think maybe from your perspective, you have a blind spot? And I'd love for you to push back on this one here. The blind spot is, you know, the only life you've ever lived is the life of a alpha raised by an alpha who raised two boys who are alphas, who, the way you describe your father, was a guy that pushed you guys, challenged you guys. He brought you guys together to back each other up. And all you know is, I can fight, I can play chess, I can outthink you, I can get out of things. I have the gift of gap, I can talk, I can do. So that's the only lens you have where, you know, if we were living in times, biblical times, a guy like you would probably end up being the emperor. A guy like you who can do all of those things, you're probably going to make it to the top.
Correct.
But they created laws and orders for guys like you to not bully the little guy, to protect the little guy. That's how they came up with the gum to call it the great equalizer, where naturally you're supposed to gravitate to the top.
Yep.
Naturally.
Agreed.
Because of all those things you bring to the table. People want a guy like even in New York, many times, Brownsville, they wanted some of the mob there because the mob prevented girls from being taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
But they still broke the law. So there was still that element of, so do you think a part of it where for you, yes, a person may say, I can see why Tate wants to be in a place where there's fewer law and order versus in a place where there's high law and order, because it doesn't really defend them, doesn't protect them.
That's a really good point of view, and it actually ties in very interesting to another point I want to make. Where there's a correlation between people who are free thinkers and people who have opinions which differ from the norm and their testosterone levels. I don't know if you've ever seen this. But the higher your testosterone level, the more likely you are to stand up and say something that the group doesn't agree with. The basic premise behind it, biologically, is you're more prepared to defend your idea. If you stand up against 5 men and say, you're wrong, I believe this, at some point, and especially in history, that can become violent. So if you don't have the capability, or at least the bravery, to stand up and face the possibility of violence, you're more likely to just comply with the group thing. So they've done a whole bunch of studies that proves somebody who is combative, not in a negative way, but combative as a whole in regards to not physically afraid of having a confrontation, let's say, is more likely to have an independent idea as opposed to somebody who is the complete opposite. They're just pure groupthink because fish swim in schools, right? That's how they protect themselves. So it's an interesting point you have there. And also that can be extrapolated if you look at the political parties of the world, or you look at the different ideas, etc. You can usually look at someone and kind of see their politics. Sometimes you can look at them and go, yeah, I get it, right? So there's a lot, biology is a huge part to play with it. And yeah, I agree with you. And you're totally right. My view, like every other person's view on Earth, is biased, and I have a large degree of individualism and a large degree of I can fix this myself, or I'll be okay by myself. And that's how I was raised, and it's also my genetic makeup, and you're right. I completely agree with you, and I understand that. And that's why each to their own. I'm not saying everybody should decide to move to Serbia, because you're right, there's monsters in Serbia that'll take advantage of a whole bunch of people completely. But for myself and my own personal chessboard, that's how I've set up life. And that's why the students who follow me and the kids I talk to, I say, listen, life is extremely difficult as a man. It's very fucking hard. There is no way I can tell you to win unless you're a top tier man. I can't sit here and give you a cheat code that allows you to stay a loser and win. I can only tell you what I've done. I became extremely wealthy. I became extremely capable. I became extremely smart. I developed a vast network of individuals that nobody wants to mess with. And I set up a life that makes me difficult to damage. That's what I did. You're saying, how can I comply, stay weak and stay stupid, and be safe from tyranny. And I say to you, you can't do that. That's why I teach the tenets I teach. And that's also why I think they find me so threatening, because I'm teaching people to do exactly that. I say, listen, there's no strength of mind or strength of opinion without strength of body. First thing you need to do is go train. Don't care what you think. Don't care what you think. Too small. First thing you need to do is go train. This number one. If you think 2 + 2 is 4, and I think 2 + 2 is 5, and we're gonna argue this to the end, it's gonna be 5. So you better go do something.
Newsflash, 2 + 2 is 5 now.
That's the reality, but that's the reality of Earth, right? And I teach kids this reality. I teach men this reality. And by even doing basic things like teaching young men to go and be strong physically, which is, I'd like to think we live in a world where that's all seen as a good thing. There are people in the world who sit there and go, wait. Making them physically stronger is going to affect our ability to change the narrative in their minds in real time with our matrix programming. That is negative.
Do you think there's wisdom in not saying everything you're thinking about? So for example, you know, Logan's going to have a big following that's going to say, well, he's wiser than you, Tate, you know, because look at you now, you got banned and he's not, you know, you're smart, he's wise. He knew what his limits are because he knows at what levels somebody is above him, and he knows how to handle that, versus you know, you can't control your thoughts and you say whatever that's on your mind. That's what got you in trouble. Hence, Logan is wiser than Tate.
Interesting point. And I would actually agree with that point, because as much as people think I'm speaking my mind, trust me, this is 20% of the things I think. There are limits to the world. There's times to say them, there's times not to say them. However, I feel a duty that Logan doesn't feel, and the duty is to my children's children. And I believe certain things need to be said, and it goes beyond just trying to keep my YouTube. I have a duty, I have a sense of duty, which is he doesn't feel. He doesn't care. He will say anything that's said, and he will allow anyone to get banned. He doesn't give a fuck, as long as he gets to continue on his channel. Please don't delete my channel. I need to be a clown on this channel. That's all he cares about. I care about the world as a whole. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if they delete me for everywhere. I don't care if I go missing from all of social media forever. I don't care. I have money. I'm fine. I'll go to the mountains, take my car, I'll chill. I have a good life. It doesn't matter to me, right? We have different objectives. So yeah, if my objective was primarily #1 concern, keep YouTube, but of course I'd talk differently, but that was never my objective. So people will argue he's smarter. I would just argue he has far less important intentions, and I'll argue that he has less moral character, and he's quicker to sell out. A lot of the things I say, I'll also be honest, a lot of things I say, I really don't think were bannable offenses. I just think I said things that got so popular. I don't think it's the things I said, I think it's how many times they were listened to. And with that long list of things I said, there's one more there I'd actually like to really disparage, because it's the one that annoys me the most, where it says, I say that women should bear some responsibility for being raped. I'd like to take this time and explain what I was saying in long format video, which has been completely misconstrued. I was talking about a girl, I was having an argument with a feminist, and she was saying that we need to teach men not to rape. And I said, my dear, I love how idealistic you are, but I am realistic. Men are already taught not to rape. She's like, no, we need to go and change language at school and rewrite history and do all the shit they're trying to do to make men weak, because they think that weak men don't rape, which is another argument I want to come back to, because weak men are the most dangerous men on the planet. Let's talk about that later. But I said, no, people already understand that rape is wrong. Unfortunately, human nature, some people don't care about doing wrong things. We should teach people not to steal, but they still steal. Would you agree that everyone says don't steal? The Bible says don't steal. The Quran says don't steal. Schools say don't steal. Everyone says don't steal. People still steal. So if I were to take $1 million in cash and walk down the street at night in the worst part of town holding it, to a degree, I would have some responsibility. When I got robbed, the police would come and say, why did you do that? People would say, Andrew, why did you do that? You have to protect yourself from things. You can't just rely on the ideological hope that other people in the world are going to be perfect and infallible, or that the law is going to prevent it. You have to say, no, I can't walk through the ghetto at 2 in the morning with $1 million in cash. I take personal responsibility. She agreed. I said, then by extension, would you agree that the smartest thing a woman can do to prevent rape is not to sit here on a podcast and try and change the way men think and talk about your bullshit, but to take some degree of personal responsibility and not put yourself in a dangerous situation? I'm not saying that's going to prevent all rape. I'm not saying that rape is okay. Rapists should be executed. I'm not saying that every single woman who was ever assaulted could have prevented it. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying the smartest thing a woman can do is say, this is dangerous. Going home with this guy I just met is dangerous. Walking through this area by myself is dangerous. Let me call a taxi. Let me call my brother. Let me go with my husband. Isn't that a more intelligent way to teach women to prevent themselves from being raped, as opposed to telling them you can do whatever you want, walk around in the middle of the night naked, it's no problem. Men shouldn't rape, men are the problem. I said, what you're trying to do is illogical. What I'm trying to say will actually prevent rape. So what you're saying, when you're telling girls do whatever you want, men are the problem, you're convincing women to put themselves in situations where bad things might happen to them. Whereas I'm saying, listen, women and men, look after yourselves. I'm a full-grown man, 4-time kickboxing world champion. There's places I don't go alone. Like I came here with security. That's called being an intelligent adult. So this is what I was trying to say. I was trying to say women need to protect themselves and bear some responsibility to make sure they don't put themselves in situations where bad things can happen to them easily. I'd like to think that's a pretty logical point. No. Andrew said rape's fine. Andrew said it's women's fault. I didn't say that. I really didn't say that. It's completely insane. If I speak to my brother's daughter, or when I have daughters of my own, and they say, I'm concerned, how do I protect myself? I'm not gonna say, don't worry, here's how we're gonna protect you. I'm gonna rewrite the mentality of every man on the planet so you can walk around naked at night. I'm gonna say, listen, you don't go out at night. I'll come pick you up. Who are you going with? That's just intelligent adult think. But they've taken it, misconstrued it, taken it completely out of context, put it on TikTok, reported it, Media Machine picked it up, lied about me, deleted me so I can't defend myself, and now I'm dangerous to the world. Just fucking scam. It's all a scam. And it's actually quite interesting because the people who are close to me have said to me in real time, Andrew, you've impressed us. I said, how? They goes, the hit piece they've done on you is unprecedented in the world. And you seem unfazed. It's like, it's not a matter of being unfazed. It's slightly annoying. It's a matter of just analyzing, what I can actually do about it. But I think most people who had been through the shit I've been through right now would be genuinely upset and affected by it. I don't give a fuck, right? Because I've set my life up in a way that I know I'm okay. But not many people can handle the entire world saying you're a fucking rape apologist and we're going to delete him from the entire world. It's dangerous to women. Not many people are going to want that to happen today. So what they've done is genuinely criminal because this is bullshit. I was sticking up for women against feminists saying don't tell women to go out at night, they're going to get hurt. It's absolutely insane. And like you correctly identified earlier, if someone were to hurt a female member of my family, it'd be the biggest mistake they ever fucking made. I don't care about, I'm the worst enemy a man who hurts a woman could be. The other point I made earlier, I don't want to talk too much, but we talk about weak men. This is what's scariest about this entire agenda they're trying to purport. Because their ideas, like the feminist idea and like the mainstream idea and like Logan Paul's ideas, all their ideals is if we weaken men, then if they become weak enough, they'll no longer be a threat. And I argue that point absolutely. I think the most dangerous men on earth are the weak men. I think inside of every single man, we're born with a fire inside of us that if we do not control can destroy ourselves and other people. And if you look at men who have no emotional control, because that's what they're trying to teach us to have, they're saying, listen, you're a man, you're allowed to just cry all the time and have no emotional control, no stoicism, just react to your emotions. Do you know what happens when you tell men to just react to their emotions? Anger. You have school shootings, you have rape, you have violence. That's what happens when you tell men to have no emotional control. These school shooters are kids with no emotional control. Rapists are men with no emotional control. Violence and the bullshit you see on the street are men with no emotional control. Telling men to not be stoic is going to create a breed of violent young men who have no emotional control, can't control their emotions, and act out on them. That is absolutely not more dangerous to society than me coming along saying, listen, I don't give a fuck how you feel, young man. It doesn't matter how you feel. You have duties and you have responsibilities as an adult, and you must comply and act a certain way regardless of how you feel. That is better for society as a whole, especially as I'm only teaching the tenets of, listen, go to the gym anyway. Doesn't matter. You don't feel like it. Go anyway. Listen, your girlfriend left you. Your heart's broken. You're not allowed to stalk her. She doesn't want you. Get the fuck over it. What I'm saying is good for the world. They're saying, no, act out your emotions. Cool, you're creating stalkers, rapists, and school shooters. These people are fucking dangerous.
Well, we're constantly having this conversation about being logical versus being emotional. How many times does this theme come up on our podcast? Constantly. And quite candidly, Andrew, I was more emotional before I started hanging out with BBD 3 years ago. But this is something you need to work on. Sounds like you've been working on something like this for decades, right? But when you hear logic versus emotion, how are you processing that?
Yeah, you know what he makes me think about is, and I got a question going back to Logan versus yourself on the outcome, on what were you solving for, where he was wiser, but what he made me think about is the following. This is the question I think society has to ask themselves. The government has to ask themselves, families have to ask themselves, women have to ask themselves, men have to ask themselves. Andrew Schultz, who's a ridiculously talented guy. He's a comedian, right?
Yeah, I know.
Fantastic comedian, right?
Great name, bro.
Yeah. So he says, he was saying that, I don't know where I saw this video, I think it was on a TikTok video or Instagram video, where he said, in China, they allow videos to go viral that's about education. In America, they allow videos to go viral on TikTok of people acting a fool or dancing or doing silly stuff because they're trying, this is their way of getting Americans to be distracted to do silly stuff because that's how they're getting rewarded.
China, Vikings,
Now,
they own TikTok.
let's say that's true. Let's say his ideas, he doesn't know for a fact that's true. Let's say for a fact that it's true. Let's play that. Well, then we have to ask a question. Here's a question. What content goes viral? Okay, let's go through it. Does porn go viral? Boys watch a porn video, they say, bro, you got to see this. Does porn get a lot of eyeballs?
Porn gets eyeballs,
It gets a lot of
not
eyeballs.
viral. That's
But wait a minute, it gets a lot of eyeballs.
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes.
All right, what else goes viral nowadays? What else gets a lot of eyeballs nowadays? So
Stupid dances,
stupid pranks,
stupid pranks,
what else? Pranks
anything
gets eyeballs.
nonsensical.
So you have to answer the question, why is all of this content about depensifying men going viral on platforms that don't defend this argument? Meaning, Instagram doesn't defend what he stands for. Okay, TikTok doesn't support what he talks about. Okay, YouTube doesn't defend and stand what he stands for. The core foundation of those companies is very different than the core foundation of what he has towards women, because they're more feminist, they're more men are, making men weaker, all that stuff. But if these things are getting this many eyeballs, maybe what it's saying is the market is sitting around saying, dude, we've been waiting for this for a while. Like, the market wants to kind of have somebody talk. It doesn't mean it's true or not. But hey, maybe it's what we're thinking about. Maybe it's what a lot of people are thinking about. And that makes some people uncomfortable to say, no, like the other day, one of my kids, they were watching a movie without my permission, and there was a scene in it. And my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, we had to have the conversation about, gays, lesbians, all this other stuff. I kind of shared with you how I had the conversation with them. When the moment I had this conversation, Jen walked out. She's like, babe, you like to have these types of talks. I don't want to have these.
You and the two boys.
I sat down and I gave them every possible visual they could get. So this is what's going on. And in many cases, people who are not teaching this because of father figures not in it, we have to have this talk. You know what's crazy? As much as I did not want to have that conversation at that point, I love the fact that I was forced to have it, because I'm able to get ahead of it. So I can control the point of contact and say, here's boys what you're going to be facing. A boy's going to come to you and tell you this. This is going to be happening. When it does, this is what we do as a David family. So going back to you, if the algorithms are favoring a person who they don't support his arguments, because most of these virtual governments are more feminist, left, all that stuff, why do you think your messaging got so viral?
Well, this is the interesting thing, because I didn't put a magic spell on the world. I'm not a magician. You're right. There's obviously a market for what I said. People talk about how I became the most viral person on the planet. I'll argue the point. Not only did I become the most viral person on the planet, I did it while being heavily shadow banned. They've known about me for a while. They've been trying to shut me up for a while. I've been shadow banned forever. So I became the most viral person on the planet with all the algorithms working against me. Unlike people like Logan who have all the algorithms working for them, against me. Because I'm resonating with people who are sitting there going, finally, this makes sense to me. This is how I feel inside. And this guy's finally talking about it. Everything else I consume is telling me to do things that just don't resonate with my truth. I'm only saying things that people agree with. So to chop my head off and try and delete me is asinine in and of itself, because there are billions of people out there, millions of people out there who feel the exact same way. This is what I was saying earlier, because, and once again, I'm assuming the social media companies have intellect and people who work for them who are intelligent. If they were smart, if I was a social media company, I would have come to me and said, listen, I would have had a board meeting and said controlled opposition. And I would have come to me and said, Andrew, you have to correct your message. We don't want to delete you. We don't want to be censored. You have to say this way, this way to them. And slowly perhaps taper me down on certain subjects. That would have been smart.
You see, if they would have come to you and said, listen, we've been following you, buddy. Here's what we'd like.
And I would also talk to them and say, listen, I understand I'm now the most viral person on the planet. I have to take responsibility for the things I say. The way I say things for a video that gets 300 views is different than the way I say things for a video that gets 3 million views. I respect that. Let's have a conversation. I'm not a loose cannon. I'm a logical actor. They could have done that, but they were emotional. Instead, they martyred me, chopped my head off. But that doesn't change anything, because there's millions and millions and millions of young men who think the same way I think. There are millions of young men out there who don't want to wear makeup, who don't want to put on a Pokemon suit and be a clown like Logan Paul, who don't want to take transgender blocking drugs, who don't want to assign themselves to any kind of feminist ideals, who don't want to chop their dick off, who just want to grow up, go to the gym, get strong, be respected, make money, have a beautiful girl in a sports car. There's millions of men who want that. And I speak to those men, and
Most
they think
men want
most
that,
men
Andrew.
want that. And they think by chopping my head off, those men are going to want something else because they'll get rid of me and they'll put James Charles in front of them and say, no, foundation reviews. It ain't going to work. They don't want foundation reviews. It's not what they want. And it's truly crazy. They think that's going to work in and of itself at all.
You don't think it's going to work?
I think I've proven that it's not going to work. What's actually the most upsetting is this. I find it extremely hypocritical, and of all the things in the world, my pet peeves, the things that annoy me most are hypocrites. I find it extremely hypocritical that the system itself pretends it gives a shit about men's mental health. It will sit there and pretend it cares about all the men out there who are depressed, struggling, sad. But when I come along and tell them the only way I've ever found personally to be happy and contented, because I can only talk my personal story, is to become a man of status, to become successful, to go through pain, to use my trauma, to use the bad things that happened to me, to galvanize myself against attacks from the Matrix, as I've just proven I can easily weather. When I talk about men's mental health, they delete me. I thought you gave a shit about men's mental health. I'm the most popular man on the planet, and 90% of my content is not even about women. It's motivational and antidepressive. And you're gonna sit here and delete me saying that I'm bad for women. What about men? I thought you gave a shit. All of a sudden you don't give a fuck anymore, right? Just delete him, who cares? I had a man message me, a man emailed me saying that he was gonna kill himself. I get about 10,000 emails a week. I don't answer all of them, but I answer some of them. This guy, his email was so short that I believed it. Subject was, I'm gonna kill myself. And the thing is, I know you won't reply. I'm gonna kill myself. I don't know what to do. That was the email. And I sat there and said, listen, my friend, I get a lot of emails. I don't know how serious you are. I want you to make me a promise. I'm gonna guess that you're not in the best physical condition you could be in. I want you to make me a promise that you're gonna get a six-pack first and send me a picture of you with a six-pack. And if you still feel like killing yourself after that, I don't know you, I can't tell you what to do. But I want you to get a six-pack first. Email me back, we start going back and forth. I convinced him to get the gym and say, get a six-pack, see how you feel. If you still feel like killing yourself, then I'm not telling you to kill yourself, I'm telling you that's what I would recommend. Start training. By the time he started sending me physique updates of him in a better condition, he started sending me huge emails of apology and thank you, saying you saved my life. I can't believe I was thinking of killing myself. You can't believe he changed. If that man would have emailed Logan Paul, would Logan Paul have given a fuck? He would have ignored the guy. You think he answers a single fucking email? He doesn't give a shit. All these fucking media figures, all these people who are good for the system, who are dancing on the devil and fucking sitting here talking about dangerous rhetoric and all the other bullshit. You think they'd fucking answer an email? They don't give a solitary fuck about the young men of the world. They would have left that man to die. And even if they would reply to him, what advice would they give? Go take antidepressants to watch my YouTube. They have no value to give a guy because they've never had a life of actual genuine struggle. I'm out here genuinely saving lives, genuinely saying to men, the world you now live in is so competitive that if you're not a competitive male, you're going to be perma-depressed. You don't have a mental disease. You're just in a competitive environment and you are losing. You need to become a competitive person. There's no easy way. It's gonna be hard, it's gonna suck, but if you get to top G, the name, if you get there, it's a life worth living. That's what I'm saying. And then millions of young men are going, wow, he's showing that you can be born from nothing, single parent on a fucking council estate in the worst town in England, be stabbed, come from nothing, and survive and end up with a multi-millionaire. Maybe I can do it if I work hard and I'm diligent and I try hard and I'm really giving hope to the world. And then they delete me. Then they put up a new thing about men's mental health, saying which pill they should take. And then they put James Charles in front of them on the algorithm. This shit's evil. It's genuinely criminal. I am nothing but a positive force for the world. And this is what I was talking earlier about the hero's arc and the redemption, because I think that inside of human consciousness, people are very, very familiar with the idea of the arc of a villain turning into a hero. It's in the Bible, it's in every superhero movie. The guy starts off bad, he's crazy, he's too bad, we don't want him, he's a maverick, you can't control him, blah, blah, blah. But towards the end, you're like, where's Batman? Where's Batman at? And it's gonna take a matter of time before people realize, you know what, Tate was actually a good force for the youth. Perhaps he needs to correct his message, perhaps he needs to take his newfound fame on board and change the way he says certain things. Agreed, I'm not infallible as an individual. But to sit here and say I'm dangerous and I must be deleted is disservice to all the men of the world. And then they're going to start printing articles talking about men's mental health. They don't give a fuck about men. They don't give a shit about the 18-year-old boy out there who can't get a girlfriend who's genuinely lonely and the fucking sports star's fucking them all. I'm telling him what he has to do. I'm saying, listen, bro, of course the sports star's fucking them all. He's a G. You ain't shit. If you were a chick, would you choose you? Because I fucking wouldn't. So whose fault is that? The best thing about being a man, is you get to build your character from the ground up. You're not born with any value. You're born as a blank slate. I decided I wanted to be a big toting, kickboxing, Bugatti driving fucking bad boy. I did it all myself. You get to choose you want to be a musician and be sensitive and play guitar and get them that and be important that way. You get to choose you want to go get in the cage and kick the fuck out of somebody. You get to choose to be anything you want. But you have to go and do it. It's going to be difficult because it's competitive. But that's the beauty of being a man, the blank slate. And I inspire men to look at themselves as a blank slate and go, you know what? I ain't shit now, but I can become anything I want. How could I possibly give up on myself? And then they delete me. And then they say we care about men's mental health. They don't give a fuck. They're lying.
This is what they say that women are and men must become.
Completely true.
Right? I mean, it's because a man, you talk about, there's nothing worse than being born rich and then just being rich.
Oh, absolutely.
The beauty is being fucking dirt poor and becoming rich.
Completely.
And all three of us sitting here have dealt through that. A man has to have tenacity and go through struggles and days where you're like, I can't fucking do this anymore, but still pop your head up the next day and be like, all right, let me get back in the gym.
I say this.
Tenacity.
I say this all the time. I say the best things that ever happened to me are the worst things that ever happened to me. All the trauma and bullshit I've been through in my life are the best things that ever happened to me. Because as a man, if you've not had a difficult life, you cannot be good at being a man. Being a good man and being good at being a man, they're two slightly different things. But to be good at being a man, you need to have been through so much shit that when the Matrix deletes your entire life from the internet and starts lying about you at mass, and people start doing protests wanting you fucking hung, and they're looking for your family members, and reporters start calling every ex-girlfriend you've ever had, trying to convince them and bribe them to lie, to come out and say you're something you're not. When they're genuinely out to put you in jail, that you can sit there and be focused and stoic enough to go, you know what? Okay, what's the chessboard? What's gonna happen? Who's trying to shoot me right now? Nobody. Okay, so it's better than it was a couple years ago. Okay, so X, Y, Z, and plan through it, right? You're never gonna be capable as a man if you've not had trauma. The best men ever have had trauma. If you call a police officer, you need a brave police officer. He ain't gonna be brave unless he's been through shit.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be brave unless he's been through shit. So we also, as a society, sit and look at men and go, we want, well, there's two kinds of society. There's the matrix society, but the true society, the true women with a brain, the answer, I want a man who's strong, who's supportive, who's intelligent, who financially provides, etc. Then you're gonna want a man to some degree who's been through some shit.
Yeah.
And a man who's internalized it and used it as a weapon. And this is what I say to people. People email me their long lists of all the bad things that happened to them, and I reply, fantastic. You are so lucky. You have all the building blocks to become the exact kind of man you want to be. If none of this shit happened to you, when something else bad happens to you later, you wouldn't be able to deal with it. Fantastic. And he goes, no, but you know, this. He replied again with more excuses and said, why are you making excuses? I just told you what happened to you is a good thing. You need to reframe your mind. Bad things happened to Batman. They killed his parents. Do you understand? That's why he's Batman. You just told me you have the building blocks to become the most, you might become top G when I retire. Fantastic. What are you complaining about? He goes, well, what do? I said, you need to work. Take all that trauma. If you're truly heartbroken, my friend, and we've all been there as men, if you're truly heartbroken, you can't sleep. That means you're gonna get in fantastic shape. You better hit the gym. You have nothing else to do. Stop watching YouTube. Stop emailing me. I want pictures of you in the gym. Get to fucking work. Heartbreak's a fantastic motivator, as is depression, as is sadness. Great. Look at what's pissing you off and make sure it never happens again. If you were jacked and rich as fuck, she probably wouldn't have left your ass. So get your shit together. Right? So this is so important. Trauma is such an important part of being a man. And the Matrix talks of trying to say that trauma is terrible and avoid trauma, or if you get trauma, take a pill, and that's unrealistic. Trauma's gonna happen to you, and you as a man need to internalize it, accept it, and weaponize it to become the best version of yourself you can be. And that requires mental strength and stoicism. It does not require, be more emotional. If you're more emotional, you're gonna fall apart when shit happens. You're gonna end up like Logan Paul, crying your eyes out on TV like a bitch.
I imagine there's a lot of men that hate you because they have not done anything with their lives. And you're basically saying, clean it up, buddy. Get it together, hit the gym, make something in your life.
It's
interesting. And they want to get rich quick. They want the easy way out. And they probably hate you more than feminists.
It's interesting. The men who support me online have their shit together. The men who hate me are fat. The men who have done the takedown videos of me are objectively unattractive individuals. I'm not trying to be insulting, just objectively obese, unattractive individuals, right? People who don't have their life together. It's the same even more with women. You can find 10 women who are sticking up for me, supporting me. They're all beauty queens. And then you find some girl sitting there, some troll sitting in the corner. Andrew's bad for women. You know, so there's a lot to be said there, right? And hate always comes from below. It never comes from above. The people who have their lives together, whether male or female, love me. The people who have failed and they know that the failure is their own fault, and I show I'm a good mirror, I reflect their own failures at them, oh yeah, of course they hate me. And that's what's happened here. What's most upsetting is as follows. This whole idea of protecting women and misogyny has been weaponized to attack someone they don't like. These people saying that we need to get him down to some misogynist, they don't give a fuck about women, these people. Even they care. There's some fat troll. There's some dude called Daz who made a takedown video of me, who just came out actually on my last podcast. Turns out he was talking to a 13-year-old girl. So he's a fat pedophile. So there's a fat pedophile who did a video on YouTube about me saying that I'm dangerous for women. Got 10 million hits because he's objectively unattractive, saying that he cares about women, but he's a pedophile himself. He doesn't care about women. He's jealous of me. He's jealous of who I am and my lifestyle, so he's found something he can use to weaponize. If he can't make up that bullshit and attack me, how else can he attack me? Can't call me broke, can't call me dumb, can't call me stupid. Like, what can he call me? Well, he's better than me at everything, but if I take this and pretend to give a shit, he doesn't give a fuck. I build orphanages in Romania. I have a charity that rescues stray dogs. I take time out of my life replying to emails saving people from suicide. What the fuck does this guy do for anybody? Nothing. But he's the good person because he gives a shit? No. He's using it as a vehicle to attack somebody who he knows is his superior in every single human metric that can be measured by modern science, and he dislikes me for it. All of this is just weaponized care. Oh, we care so much about, they don't care about fucking anything. They don't care about people. They just dislike me. And that's a very different thing. It's all been false from the beginning. I've seen through it all from the absolute beginning. It's a matrix attack. And like I said, I told you how it happened. YouTube strike, Meta, YouTube, media, Uber, Gmail, Discord, Skype, Twitch, boom, 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 boom. It's all a fucking coordinated hit piece. It's bullshit.
You know, it's crazy. I'm listening to you and I'm saying, okay, so who does not want to hear what you have to say? Most people don't want to hear what you have to say, okay? Now, why is most people not wanting to hear what you have to say? When a kid is being raised, you got the good cop and the bad cop, right? In many instances, the father's the bad cop. Many instances. In the family nucleus where mom and dad are together, the father plays the bad cop, the father comes in, get your shit together, you ain't doing nothing, be a man, go make money, get off your ass. All you're doing is this, all you're doing is that, and that's the message. However, if the market is only filled with only one or of the two, it's not healthy. Meaning, if it's only Tate giving this message, that's not healthy. If it's only the mom saying, well, leave him alone, Andrew. You're being too tough on him. You don't know what he's going through. He's just a kid. He's 12 years old. Why are you being so tough on him? And you, the father, look, I'm trying to turn him into a man. He needs to be a man. You realize how tough the world is? But babe, he's just a kid, babe. Leave him alone. You don't know what happened with him last week. So then you, as the father, goes to sleep and you tell her you didn't hear anything she said, but you're sitting there saying, maybe she's got a point. Maybe she's got a point. And in the morning, you go to the kid and say, hey, no matter how much shit I talk and I challenge you, guess what? I love you. I believe in you. I think you're going to do something special with your life, but I want to see you be a leader, right? So the problem with the market is they only want to give mommy's message completely without daddy's message. This is why I believe this message blew